When I say Billy Trim, you say sexy. Billy Trim.
Sexy!
Billy Trim.
Sexy!
When I say future robot, you say fuck you. Future robot.
Fuck you!
Future robot.
Fuck you!
We're here for you, baby doll. All right. That's the self-esteem he's gonna need in 30 years. He's gonna come back and think on that moment. He's like, yeah, fuck you. That's right. Bark Park. You should say Bark Park in your own life, because it's one of those things you just repeat over and over again because it's fun. Bark Park. When I say Bark Park, you say Bark Park. Bark Park. Bark Park. Right? By John Wayne Communale. Communale?
Yes.
Okay, good, I did it. I love them, I just didn't know how to pronounce that last syllable. There's a dog park in my neighborhood, but I'm not allowed to go there anymore. Not after the unpleasantness. It was an absolute beaut of a day with a temperature in the mid-70s and a cool breeze that only blew when you were standing in the sun. Days like this are a rare breed in Houston, since we know the thick, smothering heat of summer is looming over our shoulder like a pursuant army gaining ground by the second. Capitalizing on days like this is a priority. I was off work, which made it even more glorious, and I decided to start the day by walking my best poochie pal, Lebowski, to the neighborhood Bark Park. I knew that was going to happen. Which I'd only just discovered existed that very day. It was a decent 1.5 mile walk to the park, but the weather was perfect. Was a perfect spoonful of sugar to make the medicine go down. Upon arrival, I found the dog park divided into 2 separate sections. One side for large dogs and the other side for small dogs. There was no other information listed pertinent to or otherwise such as what exactly qualified a dog as being large or small. I looked at the sign, then looked down to Lebowski sitting patiently at my feet, back to the sign, and again down to Lebowski. Then I lost my train of thought because I'd smoked a joint on the walk. And all I could think about was how cute Lebowski was. Lebowski is a pit mix with a bright pink nose, soft bunny rabbit ears, and is covered in short white hair that also happens to cover anything else within his 2 feet radius. Lebowski's weight fluctuates between 40 to 45 pounds, which isn't very small, but it's not that big either. I scoped out both sides of the divider fence, hoping to make a judgment call based on the size of the dogs on either side. That makes sense, yeah. Okay, but the odds seemed to be stacked against us, as the dogs on the small side were all much smaller than Lebowski, and the dogs on the large side just didn't exist. So I shrugged and walked us into the large dog entrance. Well, I recognized this experience as a possible self-esteem booster for Lebowski, since he could officially consider himself a large dog for the time being. I also thought it sucked pretty hard. The fun of the dog park is the dogs getting to interact and play around and do dog shit with each other in a safe, controlled environment. Sure, our environment was safe and controlled, but Lebowski was a lone wolf out there with his nose in the air and nary a butt to sniff in sight. We must have both looked like a couple of sad sacks standing out there, because one of the dog owners on the small dog side walked over to the fence and got my attention. "Hey there," she said, waving. "Why don't you bring that cutie pie over to play?" I guess I thought he was too big to be on the small side. I said, making sure to use the air quotes, so I appeared as if I were following the rules out of spite. "Well, bring him over anyway so he can play." I looked around to the others on her side of the fence and got their collective approval in the form of nods and smiles. A minute later, Lebowski and I were on the well-populated small side and fitting in just fine. Well, we were at first. Lebowski was elated to be amongst the pint-sized canine horde and took off with the pack to run circles amongst a buffet of hot and cold-running butts to sniff. I briefly engaged with the other patrons in greetings and small talk before sauntering off to the side where I could keep an eye on my pup and enjoy being stoned in the gorgeous weather. I wasn't even paying attention to the sourpussed old woman who entered with her smallish black poodle in tow. If I had, I would have seen the scowl on her face as she no doubt shot hate rays from her eyes in my direction. Her curly-headed dog rushed over to join the others in their lap-running, butt-sniffing extravaganza, paying particular attention to my Lebowski. The two of them played and pawed at each other like dogs do, but the old woman didn't seem to appreciate their interaction. She called for her darling poodle to get away from that dog and to come over here right now. I too called for Lebowski, and the woman directed a heaping portion of disdain my way upon learning he belonged to me. Lebowski trotted over to my side, but when his new poodle friend ran by, he took off after her, wanting to continue their playdate. The woman did not take kindly to this gesture of frivolity on Lebowski's part, and scooped her precious poodle into her arms while Lebowski, still in play mode, tried to jump and engage his new friends. He didn't make contact, and the woman turned to pull the dog to her chest. It didn't seem like a big deal until she turned back around, her face ignited with rage. "Get it away! Get it away," she said, not breaking eye contact with me. "It's okay," I said. "He's cool. He's just trying to play." "It's certainly not cool, you riffraff. You aren't supposed to be on this side. Get this mongrel away from me." I felt like I was being insulted in a Tom and Jerry cartoon. I think it was those remarks mixed with my paternal connection to Lebowski that prompted my response, "Shut the fuck up, lady." Birds scattered from the trees above. All the dogs stopped barking, and even the breeze slowed to a still. The entire energy of the park changed in that instant. At first, I didn't realize those words had come out of my mouth, and I looked around, stunned, like the rest of the dog park patrons, for the culprit. When my eyes landed back on the poodle woman, her wide and horrified eyes told me it was I who had done this thing. The tension was growing suffocatingly thick with each passing moment. I remained locked in the surprised stare of the old lady, and people were starting to look nervously around for fear of what I would do next. I took this as my cue to leave. I snapped Lebowski's leash on his collar. I walked past the old lady and out the gate. I felt a collective sigh of relief as the gate closed behind us, along with an indecipherable collection of muttering. Sure, I felt a little bad about cursing the old lady out, but she was being a bitch. By the time we got home, the entire interaction was such a distant memory, I questioned if it even really happened. A week later, I received confirmation in the form of a letter from the Homeowners Association. In short, the letter told me that due to numerous complaints of my inappropriate behavior and threatening actions, I was no longer permitted to use the neighborhood dog park. If I wished to protest this ruling, I was welcome to attend the next HOA meeting to plead my case. How in the hell did they even know who I was? Was I followed? Did the old lady Facebook stalk me? I laughed it off, and while I would have loved to go to the meeting and tell them all to fuck off, I just didn't care that much. So I haven't been back to the dog park since, and now we just run around in our backyard with the occasional dog friend or two. I haven't run into the lady around the neighborhood since then, but I don't regret telling her to shut the fuck up. I regret nothing.